Hello and welcome to the podcast that can't bear watching their mid-table championship team pass it out from the back and would much rather see them launch it forward to the big man up top. I'm Joe.
And I'm Ed.
Do you know what that was a reference to, Ed?
I don't, Joe. You're going to have to fill me in.
Well, last week you took me along to Stoke against Bristol City.
I did, and it was the best time of your life, wasn't it,
And
Joe?
what I noticed there was that Stoke have obviously got a new manager.
We have Narcis Palak.
Yeah, that's him. And he's trying to implement a new style of play, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to pass out from the back, as many teams are doing.
Yeah.
Your fans hate it.
Our fans absolutely hate it.
Give them 8 seconds and you got boos ringing around the Bet365.
What was so funny is that at this point, it was 13 minutes in and we were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And we were just keeping possession of the ball, which is very sound footballing tactic.
Yeah.
And our fans were chuntering
Hating
away.
it. There was a man behind us that was shouting, "Ping-eat! Ping-eat!"
But look, at the end, he was right. We drew 2 each.
It was such a strange game.
Very odd game, wasn't it?
You were 2-0 up around 15 minutes, but it felt like you were 2-0 down.
Yeah, the whole game we were under the cosh, weren't we? Yeah. But anyway, the most important thing was you enjoyed the light show, didn't you, Joe?
I did enjoy the light show. I enjoyed the fan zone that you've set up as well. At one point, they had a big screen and they did put up the substitute from the Norwich game the week before.
Yeah. Somebody's clearly not changed a slide on the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But, look, things are exciting down at Stoke City.
There really felt like there was a buzz around the place.
Yeah, good. Well, I'll take you again, Joe. Don't you worry about it.
Please do. So, Ed, big news today.
Absolutely massive.
Massive news as we record on a Monday. They've just announced the sacking of Eric Ten Hag.
It's amazing, isn't it? All of this time, all it took was a last-minute penalty against West Ham.
A questionable one.
A very questionable one, yeah. And that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
It was. What are your initial thoughts of this sacking?
I think it's been a long time coming. If I'm honest, I'm quite disappointed because...
Yeah, I'm a little bit sad, actually.
Yeah, well, I know you are because you're a Liverpool fan, but I'm disappointed because I genuinely think Eric Ten Hag is a good manager, a good coach, a good tactician, and there's lots of other things going wrong. And I see a lot of similarities with my own team in that I don't think that changing the manager is going to solve anything. I think we'll have the same situation in about 18 months.
I think he's had just a series of bad situations he's had to put out. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo, that was a big situation. Jadon Sancho, and you can argue that some of it was Eric Ten Hag's fault, some of it wasn't. And I don't think they've had a period where they've been able to just focus on what's going on the pitch. But I guess that's the nature of Manchester United at the moment.
It's the nature of Manchester United, but it's also just the nature of football, isn't it? It's a results business, and if you can't get them, that's it, you've gone. And there will, I'm sure, be other opportunities for him. And we're going to actually spend a bit more time delving into the Eric Ten Hag story later on in this episode.
Let's do that. Say no more.
We're going to go straight into our trivia section, Bible Ballers. Joe, I know you love this bit.
I do.
You do, yeah. So you're currently 4-2 up.
Yeah.
And this week it's me to ask you a question.
I'm ready.
Are you excited? Are you feeling up for this?
Yeah, I feel confident.
Okay, well, we'll go straight into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
For anybody who has not heard this before, this is a Guess the Player quiz. I'm going to give Joe some clues. He's got to see if he can guess the player that I'm referring to. But the difference is the first name of this player will also be the same as a book of the Bible. So here we go. Here's your question. Which midfielder commanded the biggest transfer fee for an English player in the 18-19 season when he signed for Leicester City? Yeah, he's got his thinking cap on here.
Got my thinking cap on there.
Yeah.
At 18-19 season, so how good were they in that season? Biggest transfer fee for a midfielder. I think I've got it.
You think you've got it?
I think I've got it already. Do you want me to tell you, or should I wait for
No, I think you should
suspension?
wait for some suspense.
I'll do that. I'll pretend to think about it.
But you're going in confident.
I do have it up in my mind.
He's going in confident. Great. Well, we'll hear him lock that in towards the end of the episode. Okay, Joe, as you've mentioned, this is a Monday when we're recording.
Yes.
So as we speak, we have not had the winners for the Ballon d'Or announced. Now, there's been leaks.
There's been a lot of activity today.
Yeah.
Now, to start with, do you care about the Ballon d'Or?
Not really, no.
I don't think I'm that bothered about it.
But I think I get bothered because people are talking about it.
It's a very active topic of conversation, particularly today. Just hours before we record, there's been not so much a statement, there's been leaks. There's leaks all day around this kind of thing, but apparently Real Madrid are not sending any representatives at all to Paris tonight for the Ballon d'Or because they've heard that they don't have a Ballon d'Or winner.
Very much feels like a sort of I don't want to play, so I'm taking my ball and going home.
Didn't want to play anyway.
Situation, doesn't it? Also looking at the Women's Ballon d'Or, which will be announced tonight as well. But there's some really exciting players like Trinity Rodman and Aitana Bonmati, who plays for Barcelona. So
she's a very good midfielder.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see who wins that. Speaking of Barcelona, it was the El Clasico this weekend, wasn't it?
It was quite a significant one. You know, Barcelona have had quite a treacherous few years, you know, financially, and they've been in a bit of a state since the Guardiola years, but this was a big win for them. They won 4-0.
Absolutely massive. And Lamine Yamal just again showing why he's basically Messi 2.0.
Yeah,
and
17, Ed.
And he just cannot stop scoring and all that sort of stuff. Like, what a player he is. But a shock result, do we think?
I think it is a bit of a shock result. 4-0 in that game, regardless of who wins, is a shock result, I think. It's known for being such a hotly contested game. I think where Real Madrid are at the moment as well, obviously just signing Mbappe and the squad that they have, Jude Bellingham, has had quite a bad start to the season, numbers-wise. I don't think he's scored yet this season. So I think this is a bit of a shock result, actually.
And this is probably almost certainly what's contributed to Real Madrid throwing their toys out of the pram with
it's
the Ballon d'Or.
Probably not helped. So Ed, an exciting weekend in the Premier League.
It was very exciting, wasn't it?
Did you catch much of it?
No, I watched very little football actually this weekend, Joe.
Oh, why is that?
I was at a golf weekend.
Oh. So always trying to talk about golf.
I know. Yeah, we caught the highlights of the Forest Leicester game.
Yes.
Caught a bit of Arsenal Liverpool in a pub.
We had quite a heated discussion before, actually. We were having a bit of a planning meeting ahead of the episode, and Ed just nonchalantly said, Arsenal, very clearly the best team in that game. And I obviously kicked off a little bit and said, Ed, I don't think you're right there. And then we drilled down into the details of Ed's watching of the game. It turns out you've been watching it in a pub on mute.
Yeah, it was on in the background.
Yeah, so you weren't focusing on the game
I probably
at all.
watched about 20 minutes in total.
So you don't have a valid opinion, whereas my opinion is very valid as a non-biased Liverpool fan.
Yeah, I think you're probably accurate there. But let's have a look through the talking points of the weekend. We'll start with that Friday game, Leicester 1, Forest 3. Chris Wood again, prolific. Loves scoring, an absolute gem in my fantasy team. Yes. He will never be taken out.
I actually did take him out ahead of this week. I thought, he's had his day. Let's change it up a little bit. But yeah, he's looking on to rival for the Golden Boot this season.
Now, am I right in saying you've met Chris Wood?
Yeah. So
you sound embarrassed, so please tell me the story.
It was quite an embarrassing story.
Go on.
So I went to a wedding about 2 years ago with my wife, who is friends with someone. She is friends with someone who is married to someone who is in the same academy as Chris Wood.
Gosh,
me and Chris Wood are basically best friends.
Yeah.
So we were at this wedding. I saw him across the room. There was me and this other guy that we'd gone with, and we were like, "Oh my word, it's Chris Wood. Let's try and talk to him." So we went to the bar. We went as well, and we got a photo with him. We said, "Oh, hi Chris, big fan."
Big man up top.
Yeah, huge. Went up and got a photo, really awkward, got the photo, said, "Thanks a lot, Chris." Went back to our table, and my wife was like, What on earth are you doing? That was your chance to have a conversation with a Premier League footballer. He'd just signed for Newcastle at the time. She was like, this was your opportunity to talk about football with a Premier League player. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Missed opportunity. So then a few minutes later, I saw Chris Wood go to the toilet, and I thought, this is it. This is my chance.
So
me and this guy followed Chris Wood to the toilet. And I'm not going to go into too much toilet detail, but
I think you've gone into way too much already.
There was a bit of a queue.
Right.
You know, toilets, bit of a queue.
Yeah.
And I was front of the queue. So we were in this situation where Chris Wood was there, someone was next to him. I was kind of awkwardly lurking behind.
Right.
The guy next to him made a joke about Callum Wilson taking his place. And we all laughed awkwardly. And then Chris Wood turned around and I was there. And I was just like, hi. And then he left.
So that was the extent of your deep conversation with Chris Wood.
Yeah.
Was you said hi to him in a toilet.
Very embarrassing.
Oh, dear. Well, speaking of odd situations, City found themselves 1-0 up quite early on and didn't then go on to absolutely batter Southampton.
Yeah, peculiar. You see them go up 1-0 up 5 minutes in and you think, this could be anything. This could be 6-7. But no, stayed at 1-0, had loads of chances. Haaland could have had 2 hat-tricks. And you saw at the end of the game he was annoyed and upset with himself. Almost he'd forgotten he'd scored and he'd won the game for Man City. But that's just a level they're at, isn't it? That a 1-0 home win against a promoted team is quite poor, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, you know, looking at the rest of the results, as we'll come on to them, but City grinding out an ugly win when their rivals dropped points.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're the winners of the whole weekend, aren't they?
Quietly.
Yes. Arsenal-Liverpool drawing. It feels a bit like, and this has happened the last couple of seasons, that this is the game that no one wants to lose.
Yeah.
Because you're basically playing to stay in the title race with Man City.
Yeah.
And yesterday you had both teams defending very well, actually. I thought Konate for Liverpool had a really good game. Arsenal had problems at the back, but still defended brilliantly. I thought Thomas Partey at right back did really well for someone who's a midfielder.
Well, exactly. For someone filling in, it was very much a patchwork defence.
It was, and increasingly so throughout the game when Gabriel went off injured. Really entertaining game. But yeah, at the end of the day, both teams will see that as 2 points drops. And
Salah scoring again.
Yes.
He loves scoring against Arsenal.
You know, he's now got 78 goals and assists against top 6 teams.
He's the player for the big match, isn't he?
That might just have been one of these tweets that I read and might not be true. But let's say it anyway.
Look, come on, we talked about this last week.
78 goals.
Check your sources.
Check your sources. It feels right, doesn't it?
It does feel right,
Most of them against Manchester United.
One of the games that I did manage to watch the extended highlights of was Brighton 2, Wolves 2.
Yes.
And another late comeback. Lots of late goals this weekend, wasn't there?
Yeah, particularly Saturday 3 o'clock seemed to be a whole late goal show and result-altering goals as well. Brighton went 2-0 up in this game. And I want to talk about that chance right at the end. Did you see this?
I did, yeah. Last minute, last throw of the dice. Brighton find themselves 2-1 up because Wolves had got a goal back. And then the ball breaks and they are in a 4-on-1 situation. 4 strikers, 1 defender covering. And, well, what happens, Joe?
Well, the player with the ball passed it straight to the Wolves defender.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're like, oh, never mind. Like, probably should have taken it to the corner. Hopefully it won't matter. It matters.
It mattered. They went straight up the other end, created a chance.
Scored
a goal, and, yeah...
Just
infuriating for a manager, I can imagine. Just the decision making there.
Yeah.
Either be more sensible, make a better decision, or play a better pass.
Yeah,
you've got
really
3 to pick from, you know. But Brighton obviously have been playing very well. I think this is obviously just a bit of a blip, but it's very much a morale boosting point, I think, for a team like Wolves.
I think this could really kickstart their season. They've had famously quite a difficult start. Their fixtures now are looking quite favourable. I think this could be a real moment for them if they capitalise on the momentum from this weekend.
Another game with a lot of goals. Brentford 4, Ipswich 3.
What a game this was. First on Match of the Day, Ed, Ipswich went 2-0 up as well. And you just felt that wasn't going to be the end of the story. I think you really have to start worrying for Ipswich. This has happened a few times now that they've gone ahead and ended up losing or drawing. And it must be really hard to go again after going through that.
It's very difficult, very disappointing. And I think the thing is as well, is this is the time of the season now, getting into November, where you can sort of forgive teams that are playing well but not getting the results, particularly those teams that are newly promoted. But right now is the time where you have to start winning.
You have to kick on.
But you have to win ugly if need be. You can't be scoring 3 goals and not winning. You do start to fear for Ipswich unless they can turn something around.
Yeah, and just a quick mention for Harry Clarke.
Yes.
This was Harry Clarke's first Premier League start for Ipswich. And he scored an own goal.
Yeah.
He gave away a penalty.
Yeah.
He got sent off.
It's not a great day.
It's not a great first day at the office, is it?
I can't think of many worse first day at the office. I think the only one that springs to mind, before I came into broadcasting, I was a teacher, and I remember being told a story by one of the senior members of staff at this school. He'd been there for decades, a really lovely chap, and he shared a story about how on his first day as a teacher, he was driving into the school and he ran over a pupil. Now, what I will say at the outset is the pupil was fine.
Good.
All was fine, but that's not a good thing to do. First day on the job as a teacher is to run over one of the students.
It's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, but he did.
He did.
You know,
redemption story.
Exactly. But yeah, Harry Clarke, not a great first day at the office.
Great first day at the office. Crystal Palace got their first win of the season as well.
They did against a stuttering Spurs. Should we say? You know,
I guess so. An inconsistent Spurs.
Just opening the door to more sort of Ange whining in post-match interviews.
Yeah, he wasn't happy, was he?
He wasn't happy, but I do enjoy that. After the first question, Ange is the champion of going, well, and then answer. He loves a big intake of breath.
Yeah.
I find him a fascinating
He's
man.
fascinating, and he'll call out a silly question as well.
Very much so. Continuing with the theme of stuttering, or even maybe underachieving.
Go on.
I think we should look at Man United next.
Let's do it.
And we're going to look sort of more broadly at the Eric Ten Hag story, which is broke today. But let's start with this game, West Ham 2, Man United 1. What did you make of the game?
Well, West Ham weren't very good in the first half. I think United had plenty of chances to score. I think this has been the story of their season so far, is that they just can't seem to score. They don't have any prolific strikers. Bruno's having an okay season, creating chances, but he's the one they rely on to create chances. And when they do score, it seems to be like either a set piece or a bit of a stroke of luck. And there was this huge chance in the first half for Diogo Dalot. Have you seen this miss?
I've not, no.
It's a bad one.
It's a bad miss.
I saw it described as miss of the decade.
Oh no!
You don't want that, do you?
Was it as bad as Chris Iwelumo for Scotland?
It's up there.
It's up there.
A ball played over the top by Bruno Fernandes. Dalot runs onto it. Lovely little dink over the keeper. Fabianski was left in no man's land. Dalot has the whole of the goal to aim at, and he just blazes it high and wide.
Oh no!
You see, there's a wide angle shot where you see Xerxes in the warm up area celebrating when he's through on goal, like, yes, this is it, and here we are.
And, you know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Not in a Premier League game.
No.
But we've all been there where whether it's Sunday League or even just other things in life where it feels easier to score than miss. So you do feel for him. He's been a very good player this season.
He has. His last couple of seasons, he's probably been their best player.
But then, obviously, the real drama was at the end of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, the penalty shout. I don't know if you agree with this. I would say that so far, VAR haven't got anything particularly wrong. I think...
Well, I'd say there's been a couple of instances where they have... The questions, a lot of it's been around process, hasn't it? And about whether something should have come in at a certain point to intervene and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But no, generally speaking...
I think there's been no massive talking points.
Yeah.
I think compared to last year, they were sending out these apology letters left, right and centre. This season, I feel like the bar has been high on overturning on-field decisions, which has been good. And even in the game that was on TV, Chelsea-Newcastle, there was a penalty given that was then overturned because the bar, it didn't reach the threshold of significant contact. Whereas this one was a bit of a howler. It's not a penalty, in my opinion.
No, and I completely agree. It was a coming together of two players in the penalty area, and absolutely not a penalty in my opinion.
And there is contact, but not significant enough. Like, he was already going down, not enough contact to overturn it, but that's what happened. And ultimately, it has led to the sacking of Eric Ten Hag.
Well, that was what I was going to say. It brings it really sort of starkly into focus. Now, obviously, United didn't play well anyway. He might have got the sack after the game anyway, even if it had finished 1-1.
Yeah.
But I think the likelihood is that he probably would have kept his job another week.
I think so.
You then sort of wonder, well, what would have happened next week for United? Maybe they'd have won. And all of a sudden, they could have gone on some bit of run that might have kept him his job. But that decision, that one decision has, as you say, led to his sacking. There's so many things that we could talk about, but I think the main focus that we wanted to touch on was this idea of second chances in football.
Yeah.
Because football is a game of constant second chances, isn't it? Ten Hag has, I think he's not covered himself in glory in his Man United reign, but I don't think he's done anything to really harm his CV either. What do you think?
No, I think if you look at the numbers, he has won 2 trophies in 2 years, and I think that's not a bad start to your career as United boss, is it?
Everybody who's interested in football and has been watching it a little closer than usual will just know that he's been doing a great job in some quite trying circumstances, or at least he's been doing a fine job in trying circumstances.
I think it's going to be really interesting where it goes from here, because this isn't just a managerial job, is it? You're going into a situation that's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Still with the takeover.
The first question I've got for you is Ten Hag. Where do you think he ends up next?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think this is why we wanted to talk about second chances, because you see it more and more nowadays where managerial appointments don't go too wrong, you get sacked, and then after a bit of time, your reputation is a little bit intact. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him go on to quite a big European team.
You see the likes of all those big names, Mourinho, etc.
Yeah.
They do just go from one big club to one big club, because actually you can look at it and go, well, he didn't do a great job here, but actually there was this circumstance and this thing going on, and he's still clearly a winner. Some managers have had their whole career be based off one good spell early on, and then they've managed to sort of bounce from club to club. I don't want to suggest that I think this about Thomas Tuchel, but you could almost argue that about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think similar to Pochettino, actually, was at Southampton, did well, went to Tottenham, got them to a Champions League final, gets this move to PSG, and it doesn't go too well. Then gets a move to Chelsea, doesn't go too well. Now he's manager of the US men's national team ahead of a World Cup in their home nation.
That's a huge job.
Huge job. Absolutely huge job. There's no real other job in the world where you could perform badly and then still get one of the best jobs in that field.
And so, keeping on the Man United topic and also looking at second chances, we know that Ruud van Nistelrooy has been given the job on an interim basis. Yeah. He's obviously going to be in the mix, isn't he, for getting it on a long-term basis. Yeah. But another name that's been going around quite a lot is Graham Potter. Yeah. That would be very much another second chance in terms of second chance at a big club.
And I think it's right what you said before, that there were extenuating circumstances. When he was at Chelsea, that was the start of quite a chaotic regime that is only just starting to settle down now a little bit, isn't it? And yeah, that would be the ultimate second chance in a big Premier League club.
I think so. And obviously he worked with Dan Ashworth at Brighton. So I think, there's something there maybe. But yeah, this has literally just happened in the last sort of hour or so. So watch this space. But I think what I wanted to sort of get onto is that football is this game of constant second chances. I think rarely does a career, whether that be a manager or a player, ever just go on just a constant upward trajectory. There are peaks and troughs and great moments and poor moments and all that sort of stuff. Thinking of other sort of managers that have had similar careers, Unai Emery, look at him now.
Great example. Followed Arsene Wenger, like really hard job to follow at Arsenal. And it didn't go well. I can't remember exactly how long he was there for, but remember it not going well. Really unpopular actually with Arsenal fans towards the end. Goes away to Villarreal, does well, and is now at Villa, and probably the biggest club transformation in recent history.
And I think if we touch on players, there's countless players that have had opportunities at the top level, didn't work out, and then they've had a second chance later on. Mo Salah, I think, is prime for that, isn't he?
Yeah, obviously one very dear to my heart, Ed. When we signed Mo Salah, it was about £30 million, and you think, why have we gone for this player who famously had not a great spell at Chelsea?
Yeah, just couldn't quite hack it, and
it didn't work. And then we signed him, and the best signing in recent Liverpool history.
Yeah,
but why do you think this is?
I don't know. I think it's just something to do with. I think players' form does dip. I think that's just the nature of life and the nature of football. You know, one really interesting one is looking at the goalkeeper situation at Celtic. Actually,
yeah.
So you've got Joe Hart, who had this incredible career at Manchester City, and then he sort of bounced around a few clubs and eventually found himself at Celtic and helped them to great success. Kasper Schmeichel had a sort of similar situation and is in the mix there at Celtic as well. Celtic and Rangers are very much up there because of where they are in their sort of standing. They're a big club in terms of their history. Big players are attracted to go there, but you're not going to get you sort of elite Premier League players going and playing for Rangers or Celtic. So I think you get these players who think, I can resurrect my career here, or I could have a few more years doing well here.
I think it goes the other way as well. I think often clubs and managers can be like, maybe we can be the one to get a tune out of this player.
Definitely.
Or out of this manager. You see it with Lukaku. He's flitted around Premier League, Serie A clubs for most of his career. And you often think when he signs for a club, you're like, oh, this is it. This is a team he's really going to flourish. Remember that second time he signed for Chelsea?
Yeah.
You thought, oh, this is going to be it. This is his chance to be a Premier League player. It doesn't go well. And then he moves on again to Italy.
And I think the thing is that strikes me about all of this is that it's all about the mental strength of these players. Every player goes through good form, bad form. But some players are able to get out of that by reminding themselves of where they are and their perspective, and remembering that some things are out of their control and some things are not. Actually, there's a huge link to faith, because second chances in life is basically what Christianity is all
it's
about.
That whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that there's something really interesting is that I think ultimately what the gospel talks about is that there is second chances for those who find themselves in situations of their own making, but also people who in difficult circumstances that have nothing to do with them, things that are out of their control. As I mentioned earlier, I used to be a teacher. I got into teaching, and after a few years just realised I just really didn't enjoy it. I was struggling and finding it like I was out of sorts and all that sort of stuff. And I realised I was in the wrong place. I went through a sort of a lengthy period of trying to work out where I was supposed to be. And a few years later, I ended up in broadcasting, and as of now,
top format.
It's the best. It's the best decision I made. But that's something where that was very much just the circumstances around me. But equally, there are things that are often of our own making. It's something that we've done. It's mistakes that we've made. And I think like one big thing about Christianity and the message it brings is that there is hope for a second chance.
Yeah, 100%. I think second chances is the whole thing behind Christianity, and the Bible is littered with second chances, isn't it? But what strikes me about it is second chance doesn't mean, oh, you've made a mistake or this has gone wrong, let's just go again and try and do it without going wrong. God's saying, I'm going to use you in a different way. Trying not to make it a cringy analogy back to football.
Please do. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, of course. But maybe he's implementing you into a new position.
Absolutely.
A false nine.
Very good.
But you look...
maybe it's Wayne Rooney dropping back into midfield.
Into centre mid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ashley Young back as a right back.
Exactly.
But yeah, the Bible's littered with this. You see Moses murdered someone. God gives him a second chance, and he's not just saying, oh, try not to murder someone. He's saying, lead my people.
Yeah.
Like, that's an ultimate second chance.
Yeah, definitely.
You see, Jonah tries to flee from God. It's given his second chance. David committed adultery, is made a king.
And I think it's that thing of like, we all find ourselves in situations where we go, oh, what's going on here? And like I said, whether that's our own making or not, we find ourselves lost. We find ourselves thinking, I'm not sure if I'm in the right place here. And I think the key thing is that having that hope of knowing that this isn't the end.
Yeah.
It's that thing of, okay, better is yet to come. Now, in football, you can't always say that. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't get nominated for the Ballon d'Or this year.
Shock.
He is very unlikely to be nominated again. Let's be honest. He's at that point in his career that it isn't an upward trajectory. But I think at the end of the day, he can then look at his wider life and say, what is going to happen in this next season? There's hope that good is still to come.
You're right. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's a new place that you're living. Whatever's gone on before, that doesn't define what happens in your new season.
And I really liked a couple of verses in Luke that sort of spoke to this. In Luke 4, where Jesus says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." So this is core. This is Jesus' message, right? Why he's been sent. He's been sent to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. They are people who have made mistakes. That's their own doing, right? But there's freedom for them. And recovery of sight for the blind, people who they didn't choose to be blind. It's happened to them.
Yeah.
But for both those sets of people, prisoners and the blind, there is freedom and there is recovery and there's hope and there's new life.
Yeah.
And I think that's really amazing.
That's a really good example.
He doesn't just talk about it as well. It's very much lived out in Luke 23 when there's the thief on the cross. He's there literally being executed for his crimes, and he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus says, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." Like, this man has clearly lived his life in a bad way and is facing his just deserved punishment for it. And Jesus turns and says, "You've come to me with a humble heart. There is more for you." It's just that thing of always knowing that there's a better life out there and there's another chance out there. Right, Joe, it's time for Bible Ballers again.
Yes.
So you were pretty confident. I think the most confident you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's felt good this week, actually, Ed. You know, I feel like I answered the question straight away, and I've just been able to relax into the episode. You know, it's like you score an early goal. And
yeah.
You're like, I'm just going to enjoy myself.
It's almost like you've gone 2-0 up after 13 minutes.
It does feel a bit like that, and everyone's getting on my back for playing it out the back.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask the question again. Which midfielder commanded the biggest transfer fee for an English player in the 18-19 season when he signed for Leicester City?
I'm going to go for James Maddison.
James Maddison. Oh, okay. So you don't think it'll be double Danny Drinkwater?
It's not going to be double Danny Drinkwater, considering he won the season with them a few years beforehand.
Okay, so you don't think it's him. You think it's James Maddison?
I think it's James Maddison, signed from Norwich after having quite a good season in the Championship.
You are correct.
Oh.
Well done. James Maddison is correct. Yes, signed for 20 million. It was the biggest transfer fee for an English player that year. Yeah.
That's mad considering now it's about 100.
I know, yeah. But yes, no, James Maddison, still unbelievably, with only 7 England caps to his name.
That's mad, isn't
that shocking?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, not a criticism of the Southgate regime or anything, but
it's not. It just shows how many options we have up there.
I just thought, like, because I was doing a bit of research on him, if I'd have guessed how many caps James Maddison had, it would have been about 28.
I would have gone about 17, I think.
Yeah, but 7 caps.
7.
So it's 5-2, Joe.
5-2, I'll take that.
Take that.
Comfortable lead.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for listening to The Big Man Up Top. If you want to get in touch with the show, please ping us an email to podcasts@ucb.co.uk. Please follow, subscribe, and give us some good reviews to help us get the word out about this podcast. And if you've enjoyed it, please tell your mates. A huge thank you to our producer, Anthony Salamat-Webb, for all his hard work behind the scenes, and a huge thank you to Eric Ten Hag for the last 3 years of entertainment. There'll be a new episode next Tuesday, and I'll see you next week, Ed.
See you next week, Joe.